Vanakkam. This is Hyder Ali Sayyed from Aaseevagam, United Under Tamil.
And Reuben, and I agree with you totally. You see, when you talk about the language mafia, that is something that they don't. And I want you guys one day to address the languages in one of our rooms, because people don't really. Not a lot of people understand the languages of the Indus Valley, like Brahmi and Sanskrit and Tamil. They don't, the Indo-Aryan, Indo-European, the Dravidian, however you want to call it. They don't understand these languages and where they stem from and how old they are, and their connection to what we read in terms of the Bible. And I know that a lot of black people, we know about Noah and his 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and we know Ham is connected to Africa. We know Japheth, most cases people will say, is connected to the European nations in the north, Iceland, Greenland, Scandinavia, Norway, Finland, Sweden, Russia, the steppes, all these different areas, the Volga River, the Danube River, and all these different places that you see, Black and Caspian Sea. But a lot of people are not paying attention to these other languages that are in Asia or South Asia that spread across, and that is all branched off from Brahmi or Sanskrit, even going down to Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Thailand, all these different little islands, to the east of India. These languages have a branch. They have some connection. Just even the Australian Aborigines, their DNA and a lot of research has been done on them, and even the Andaman Islanders. There is a connection back to India in various percentages, and we need to start bringing this out in terms of these languages and their involvement in other languages in the world and ancient civilizations, because everybody, of course, is looking at the term Shemite or Semite. They're looking at the Middle East or Mesopotamia, the Sumerians, the Proto-Babylonians, Assyrians, the Akkadians. They're looking at the ancient Arameans, the Elamites, and the Luwian languages and the Hittite languages. And they're looking at all this stuff. And of course they have civilizations, they have languages, they have culture. They left behind archaeological digs and finds. But what people today are connected to these ancient civilizations, languages, traditions, and customs and stories. And many people, when they look at India, they're like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about Hinduism and Gandhi, and let's talk about this and that and Brahma and Shiva and Vishnu, but they don't. But in terms of the black community or just the English-speaking community, nobody's really making the connection between the vast history and the vast.
They have no clue about it. They have no clue about Tamil ethnicity or the people, their culture or literature. Even the northern part of India, they have no clue. I mean, they keep.
Yeah, so why don't you bring it out there? I like researching about Afghanistan and Pakistan, the Mauryan Empire, and Punjabi and Gujarati and Darsi and Farsi and Pallava and Avestan and Old Persian and all these different things. I like researching.
Yeah, I would love to, Ron. I think you should do the honors. You set up a room on linguistics, maybe a day. But sure, love to have more people where I can learn from also on the basis of linguistics. So we definitely can have that. Yeah,
because the research that I've done, there is linguistic evidence that linguistics experts from India and Malaysia and other places, they have studied the languages of Sanskrit and Tamil and Brahmi and Harappan, and they've compared it and analyzed it in comparison to the ancient languages of Iraq and Iran and Syria and ancient Elam and Persia, and there is a connection. Even the area of the Luwians and the Hittites, there is a connection, and there's ways that they can prove these connections with letter languages with different cases and declensions and how the words are formed together and different things that they use to identify similarities. Just because the written script may look different than the Wedge cuneiform script, that doesn't mean that the language is totally isolated. It's not related to, because you got to look at the pronunciation and how and the words, because a lot of times we don't.
Exactly. I think you got it right. It's very few people say that, Ron, and you're definitely one of them. As you see in my PTR, what I have is Afro-Sinaitic script, which has we have here in this one table for each and every symbol that what it means in Tamil. The sound of Tamil is mentioned here. See, that is there. Like, it's just that few people get it. The scripts evolve from time to time based on the instrument they used to write and the material they used to write. Let's say that about 2,000 years ago, we adapted palm leaves. In palm leaves, certain scripts cannot be written, because when you do, the instrument will tear the palm leaf. So our king, because usually that these linguistic modification and higher education done by our kings, especially the Pandya kings, the warring and trading, doing expanding kingdom is for other kings, but for Pandya king, and his job is to maintain the administration and to revamping laws, regulations, and modify the language and bring in wisdom to people how they have to live everyday's life. That is what he's supposed to do. So what he did is, in 2nd century, since we started using in palm leaves, the script, he altered the scripts. It is which we call Vattaluthu, which means font in round format, so that it does not tear the palm leaves. So that's the reason it is being modified. But the sound is always the same. The words are always the same. The meaning is always the same. It is the script which changes. In the span of about 3,000 years, they have adapted about 2 different scripts. The Brahmi script which we saw yesterday in Pandyan's profile is different from than the present one, the later one, and the present one. So now in modern days we are using the paper and a pen with ink, and so we use another style of font. But most importantly, these fonts are modified for the benefit of the common people, because as far as our region is concerned, from the king to the bottom line man need to have the same language and same reading fonts, and they should be, even the bottom line man should be able to read what the king has written. That is the practice, and by us culture, that they practice that. That's why this modification has been happening. This most people don't know. They think that is different and this is different. If the font is different, they think that is a different language. But language is based on sound. Sound is most important. That's why this table talks about the Semite script and what it means in how it sounds in Tamil language. Anyway, so we will do that, Ron. That's a good idea you said. I think before we speak about a lot of other information based on theology or beliefs, I think people should know these basics. These are the basics for people who want to learn more. I think we should start that, right?
We should, because a lot of people, when they look at the territories of Shem, they look at, of course, ancient modern day Syria, modern day Iraq, Iran, Jordan, all the way going into Persia, Iran, going into Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Hindu Kush Mountains, and then Turkmenistan, right above eastern Iran, and then down below you see India and then Nepal and Tibet and all these other countries, and they don't know when somebody speaks Bengali, or somebody speaks this, somebody speaks that, Sinhalese and Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, and all these different scripts, the Balochi or Rahui, Malayalam. They don't understand where these scripts come from. They don't understand the history behind these scripts, because, like you said, the scripts can change, but the pronunciation and the meaning is going to stay kind of similar, and that's where people get tripped up, because they say, well, look at modern Hebrew. These guys are speaking modern Hebrew. They're writing modern Hebrew. They must be the Hebrews. They must be Semitic speaking people. And then you go back to the ancient times, and languages has to do with morphology, syntax, and lexicon, and or just how it's written. And of course, in the old days, it was symbols and pictures. And over time, these things evolve. So there are people that was once connected to ancient Egypt. They're not writing Egyptian hieroglyphics today. Nobody's going to school and as children learning how to read and write Egyptian hieroglyphics, but there are people that are connected to ancient Egypt genetically, just like there's people connected to the ancient Sumerians and Akkadians and Babylonians and Assyrians and Elamites. Genetically, there are people that's connected to them, although their script may not look like the ancient script that they used to use. Then you need to start doing the research on the meaning. Also look at the pronunciation, and that takes a lot of linguistic research and expertise to make these connections to prove where these people might have originated from, even though they are here today. They could be speaking Arabic. They could be Muslim. They could say, well, we're Muslim. We're speaking Arabic. We got a Arabic Quran, but when you look at the mother tongue and you start to trace that back, you will find a lot about people. And I've learned that over the years, and I try to show the proof in the books and the movies, but some people don't appreciate it because they don't get it.
Yeah, I like the way you ended. That is, some people don't appreciate it because they don't get it. That's because, that's where I think people have to show compassion to those who are ignorant. That's what I insist on people. When someone show hatred or anger towards us here in Clubhouse, what is the point in reflecting the same? Because bias comes out of ignorance. So if we believe that we know something, that we have to show compassion and show them what it is really. And of course, there is a limit for that. But absolutely, there is no point in showing the same thing in return. So let's show that they get it. So we give them the easy way for them to get it, so that probably that out of 10 people, at least 2 will start evolving in that path, and they would get to know better, right? So anyway, I think you came up with an excellent idea, gentlemen. So please, you do the honest, fix a day. But if you give me at least 1 day prior to that, so I'll make sure that I'm definitely be there, on that. Sometimes I may even miss 1 or 2 days, right? So please. And if you,
who else will you bring on the stage that can also back up what you say? Would you have to bring Hyder Ali and some other people, or you can handle?
No, I would bring another person from Tamil ethnic who focus specifically on linguistics, and especially the old fonts and sounds. In fact, he does he research on. He's the one who gave me that the Semitic table. So in fact, about 4 hours ago, that I was with them in our room. But we were discussing everything in our language. So I didn't call either or other people. So we were discussing absolutely on linguistics, like the remnants which we can find in the rest of the world, the meanings of each and every word, many words which are popular among other religions or ethnic groups. We were talking about it. Anyway, I will give you another. I will come up with another friend of mine, from Tamil ethnic, on that. I'll give you another piece of information. If you Google throwing stick, you will get a page. That specific symbol is being found in one of the. Actually, you can find that in all the pyramids. Throwing stick. So the throwing stick is pretty kind of important to us, because the throwing stick has been used until 18th century here. because when you say that a throwing stick, how you throw and like that comes back to your hand, and people will connect that with boomerang, which Aborigines use in Australia. But as far as we are concerned, like I mean that was part of our life. That was I said that is that if that stick is there, if there is a throwing stick, that was meant to hit small animals like rabbits and birds and all that. That is usually people below 16 years, like when they do that, they learn that like during that time and during adolescent period. If out of that, if someone is so excellent at using that, and if they want to pursue the ways of warriors, then he would be moved on to the warriors training, and in that, exactly the same throwing stick will be given to him, which is made of metal, which we were using against British in 18th century. That is known as Valari. If you type Valari, Valari, you will get that. That is made of metal. But of course, that we lost the war against the guns. After our one of our greatest leaders, he was hanged, and they put a rule and say that, like they announced and said, from the warrior clan, all the weapons have to be submitted to the British government then. So there are references like, I mean, if anyone holds that, they were punished instantly. That information is very important to us.
Can you text me the name of that instrument, that stick?
Sure, I would do so. We know that very importantly. It is because like I belong to the tribe. So those that's a huge story behind that. Okay, Valari, Valari is the same instrument. The weapons, like we can find it in a museum, which is in one of our old kingdoms in Aaseevagam. All that instruments are, so all the weapons are still available. Many of it, around 25,000 or so, which were submitted to the government, which we never got back. And the rest of the ones which were hidden and all that, now it is in the display after the independence. So that is it. And then again, Ron, right now I have a PTR. In this PTR, you can see the fonts which I have used, the script which I have used is like, it is another form of Granda, that is Brahmi. This was being used 2,200 years ago. These fonts were used.
Yeah, I noticed that. That the first, when I looked at one of these scripts, it looked like the first letter was like a backwards K, and it kind of reminded me of the Aleph in the Hebrew alphabet. One of these scripts, because I remember looking at the script before and looking at the first letter or the first character and the last character, and it looked sort of similar to the Aleph, and how the Aleph formed. Maybe formed from a prior older language like Brahmi, and then we see the Aleph formation. But I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah, I was looking at the script too. These are old Brahmi scripts.
Yes, on the same time, there was another language. In fact, world talks about Sanskrit, but Sanskrit came into existence and as a script in 7th century. They've been using a script called Devanagari. Even to many of the other languages, like they influenced by the script, and they use that, except as only as like we do not take that. And prior to that, the Brahmi was also used to write a language called Pali. And even like when they made certain modification, the Pali script was this is known as Pali script. But the only problem here for the present day is Pali script is known for Buddhist texts. So now Buddhism have reduced very much here. That the people of this continent, they alienate the Pali script because it belongs to Buddhism. But the words which are being used in Buddhism, and Pali, are very much closely related to the Tamil, which we speak on a daily basis, actually. But there, people are not really interested in looking into it because, it is not in vogue anymore. It's restricted to Buddhism. But Pali and Tamil has a very strong relation. It's moreover it could be even Proto-Tamil. And speaking about Harappan is 100% 100% resemblance of Tamil civilization, as well as scripts and everything is closer to us than any other. Not even resembling any other. And Indus Valley is very much closer to us. But only after the fall of Indus Valley civilization is when we say that around 1000 BC that the formation of Sanskrit evolved, which they also would agree, except the mythologic people who says that it existed 50,000 years, 100,000 years and all. The actual people would say the 1,000 years, orally defined, but still, then again, that is like a Hebrew. It was never put in use to speak by the common people. It was meant to compose and recite on a personal basis. When we speak of languages, the languages should be used by that everyone from king to a common man, right? So that is not how these languages were used. But still, it is being claimed as the oldest. But that's another lengthy topic. So, but maybe we should do that, when you have that room, probably I would have it.
What's older, Sanskrit or Tamil?
Tamil.
Are they both the same age?
No, Tamil. I'll tell you what happens in this land. What happened in this land was in 1977, a Michigan scholar, a linguistic scholar, he found that even the language composed based on Dravidian retroflex consonants, and he created a thesis. He got a PhD and all that, and he came to Mumbai in Pune University. That he gave a speech that how he found out that the foundation of Sanskrit is based on that Dravidian retroflex consonants. When he gave a speech, once he was done with the speech and came out, and gangs of people they jumped upon him and said, "How dare you insult our religious beliefs?" So he was taken aback. I was wondering. He said I said it based on linguistic history. He said no. Our religious belief is this is God language. How dare you speak? So he threatened him. After that, he never spoke again. Actually. There is a book actually online. It actually mentions that nothing happened to the author. It is because the author is a Caribbean Indian origin, Caribbean descendant. So she wrote a book. Her name is Peggy Morgan, and I will send you a link later. And she wrote a book about merchants and all that. In that one, all that she has mentioned, that both are they are linguistic scholars. So they have explained in a deeper manner, in a very most pious manner. So yes, she has mentioned all that. So that's why she's still unharmed. Otherwise, that anyone come up and speak up or anything, another group will come and say that you are offending my religious beliefs, and they will attack. They'll do anything as far as today's days are concerned. It happens. So we are living with that gentleman. So There's so much of stories are there. I will save it for the day that might be very interesting, and because that would relate to many other languages, even ethnicities, that would expose the archaeological mafia, historian mafia, linguistic mafias, that would expose certain stories. So we will do that for that finding.
Do you think that the holy language or holy tongue is Tamil or Sanskrit? No. I was talking to an Indian cashier one day, and he told me that either Sanskrit or Tamil was the most perfect language in the world. Like he tried to describe why it's considered a perfect language. But I forgot what he said. What he meant by that. I don't know if he meant mathematically. I don't know what he meant, but he was talking either about Sanskrit or Tamil.
Okay. So instead of answering, I may describe something else. But normally, when we talk to people about the opinion about the languages, they would say that a language is meant to transfer an information from one person to another, to make another person understand what we say. So this is the way that languages are being understood, and they say that this is the purpose of a language. But that doesn't work that way in about Tamil. Each and every letter is designed in such a way that it gives various other benefits. Certain letters, when you continue practicing using it, the way your brain thinks would be different. That enables you to have a critical thinking. Certain letter, when you learn to pronounce, I'm sure that you would know about saliva. Though we have a very general term and understanding about saliva is just saliva, we also know that if we have not eaten for about 10 hours, a type of a saliva that we produce. While we are eating, a type of saliva we produce. During the sleep, some people produce a type of saliva. When we have a very spicy one, we produce a type of one. And each saliva is to help us to digest food, for the health, benefits, and varieties of other things. And protects us in many ways. In that line, if I say that when we use a specific letter in a very proper manner, it produces a specific type of saliva which enhances your immunity system itself. That sound is ra. The ra is so unique that which you cannot find out in many languages. I have not come across a language though that is param. Param means fruit. The ra is part of our language, and Tamil, if you try saying it with Tamil or param, your tongue would roll in such a way that produces a type of saliva. That is why the ra, while we speak Tamil in a proper manner, the ra has to be pronounced very often. And you do that, a specific one, a saliva produces it. So the language is designed in such a way that it also enables thought process in our brain and the way our brain functions, and also give health benefits, enhances your immunity. Based on all that, the language has been used. Talking about the divine language, the one which should be used as a tool between man and God is not we talk about. The reason is God is omnipotent. We don't speak to him always. We believe it's an omnipotent and we are part of him. The whole universe, human, plants, everyone, everything, including stone. If you happen to speak to a guy who works with granites, he will know that God exists and God is an artist. A guy who works with granites will say that granite has life. You should do that sometime if you come across a guy. So that is a belief that is our actual original Tamil beliefs, which our literature talks about. Right. So to speak, we have this language. We don't keep talking to God. Let's say that, like in this room, that we speak about ancient Tamil beliefs. The Tamil beliefs, as per the club name is concerned, it is Aaseevagam, which means R denotes God. Agam means Sivan means life. Agam means inside. We say that God's given guided life. So how does God help us? How does God guide us? It is not God alone. It's omnipotent guide us along with our ancestors' memories essence through our genetic memories, whatever our ancestors have learned, the essence of what they have learned, along with our conscious mind which has learned from what it has seen, heard, understood, all synchronized with each other and allow us to take the next step. And with the belief that we should live a life of a virtue. A life of a virtue is something. It is not something that which benefits someone else or ourselves. We do something which is right, no matter whether other person lose or we lose. What is right to be done, that is life of a virtue. That is the basis. In fact, this specific topic comes over and over in different places, different discussions. That is why Tamils believe in life of a virtue. So why do we have to do that? When people talk about this is the weakness of Tamils, when the world around us do things to us, that why you have to believe. So that's why, like in many occasions, in many different time period, I have seen people saying that if you remove that virtue, that aram, which we call it, remove that, then absolutely there is no meaning for being a Tamil itself. Being a Tamil is the aram, is the way of life, is the identity. So this is our belief. In this one, that we just simply believe through all our cells and genetic everything, and we move on with what we have to do on a daily basis. We don't sit and keep glorifying the person, because even glorifying is considered as a wrong thing. We have a poem which talks about we call it Purananuru, which means there are 400 verses there about how we have to conduct our life. Purananuru, Pura means outside life. Agam Nanuru means inside of us for meditation and other thing. These are 2,500 years old books. This one talks about just because someone has made an achievement, someone is born in a family, someone has some personality, someone has riches. Because of that, glorifying a person is not a right thing. At the same time, that just because someone wasn't born in a family, none of what the other person had, discriminate the person is the worst thing. This particular poem starts with the first two sentences, probably people would have heard. It starts with Yadum Ure Yavarum Kelir, which means that everybody, everything, every place is ours and everybody are our kith and kin. And you gotta imagine imagine that 2,500 years ago, someone did not give us as an instruction. He just said it as the way of life of Tamils. And it goes, that is why we do not glorify. We are just not supposed to. We should not discriminate. We're just not supposed to for any reason. But that is not what Sanskrit book talks. Now you see that where we are differing. That's the problem.
You know what I've been starting to believe? I believe that the Sanskrit, the Rig Veda Sanskrit, is when you look at the Indo-Aryan, the Indo-Iranian language, there is the connection between the Rig Veda Sanskrit and the Avestan language and the Indo-Aryan, Indo-European languages, and then in regards to Tamil, there is a connection to the because Iran was what's known as ancient Persia. In Persia, in the Bible, he's a mixture of Madai and the daughter of I think either Elam or Farxad. And when you look at the other sons of Shem, or the five sons of Shem, Ashur, Arphaxad, Elam, Aram, and Lud, I believe that the Tamil language is more connected to pure Shemites or pure Mesopotamians than it is to the Indo-European or Indo-Aryan languages. I think they're both old in a sense, but I think that the Tamil language is more connected to a Semitic background, and the Indo-Aryan or the Indo-European or the Indo-Iranian languages are connected to like Avestan and Rig Veda Sanskrit, which you'll see in the north. Because when you look at the Gujarati, you look at these languages that are near the north of India and into Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran, you will see the evolution of Old Persian, Middle Persian, Late Persian, or I forgot what it was called, Pahlavi script, and then Gujarati or Avestan, which is the language of the Zoroastrianism, which is the ancient Iranian religion. And when you look at some of the DNA, or you look at the DNA of northern Indians, Central Indians, and Southern Indians, including Sri Lanka and Singapore, you will see some differences in the DNA. You'll see some differences in the DNA, and also phenotypic differences in the South people in India and the North people in India.
Don, let's not hit the DNA, but besides that, we don't even need that level of research. Whatever you said, it is 100% go well, with what we've been saying all this year. And I hope that Hyder Ali won't come out with a sword in his hand, because that's what we talk about. What you said is that I saw the message, I read the message, that's perfectly right. And who all are there in the room? Yeah, okay, I have seen by
prolonging due to four basically regime disguised as Muslim world. Satyugam possible only